Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John Weaver, and I am a proud member of the Trenton chapter of New Jersey Orators. Today, I will be reciting the piece, Where Do We Go From Here? By Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Dr. King was born in Atlanta, Georgia on January 15, 1929, and he was assassinated at the age of 39 on April 4th, 1968. Many people know Dr. King from his speeches, I Have a Dream, which he shared at the historic March on Washington in 1963, and I've Been to the Mountaintop, which he delivered on April 3rd, 1968. The night before his untimely death. This piece is a less well-known speech by Dr. King. However, there are several themes that it highlights which remain relevant to contemporary American society. I selected this piece because it helped me to understand that if I lived during the 1960s, I would have wanted to be treated fairly and not treated differently because of the color of my skin. And now, for my piece. Where do we go from here?
Let go of the mic. Let go of the mic.
Now, in order to answer the question, where do we go from here? Which is our theme. We must first honestly recognize where we are now. When the Constitution was written, a strange formula to determine taxes and representation declared that the Negro was 60% of a person. Today, another curious formula seems to declare he's 50% of a person. Of the good things in life, the Negro is approximately one-half those of whites. Of the bad things of life, he is twice those of whites. Thus, half of all Negroes live in substandard housing, and Negroes have half the income of whites. In other spheres, the figures are equally alarming. In elementary schools, Negroes lag 1 to 3 years behind whites. And if they're segregated schools, receive substantially less money per student than the white schools. 1/20 of Negroes attend college compared to whites. Of employed Negroes, 75% hold menial jobs. This is where we are. Where do we go from here? First, we must massively assert our dignity and worth. We must stand up amid a system that still oppresses us and develop an unassailable and majestic sense of values. The job of arousing manhood within men who have been taught for so many centuries that they are nobody is not easy. To offset this cultural homicide, the Negro must rise up with an affirmation of his own Olympian personhood. As long as the mind is enslaved, the body can never be free. Psychological freedom, a firm sense of self-esteem, is the most powerful weapon against the long night of chattel slavery. Now, another basic challenge is to discover how to organize our strength into economic and political power. From the old plantations of the South to the newer ghettos of the North, the Negro has been confined to a life of voicelessness and powerlessness. The plantation and the ghetto were created by those who had power, both to confine those who had no power shines of hope are brought into the metropolis of daily security. Let us be dissatisfied until men and women are judged on the basis of the content of their character, not on the basis of the color of their skin. Let us be dissatisfied until from every city hall, justice will roll down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. Thank you for listening to my piece, Where Do We Go From Here? By Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Once again, my name is John Weaver, and I'm a proud member of the Trenton chapter of New Jersey Orators. Thank you.